Your Locked On Blackhawks, your daily podcast on the Chicago Blackhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Just a quick reminder that you could follow for free or subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to do that real quick so that you can get the latest episode as soon as it's available each and every day. I'm your host, Jack Bushman. Joining me now is none other than Rockford IceHogs forward Joey Anderson, who, of course, was acquired from the Toronto Maple Leafs at the trade deadline. He spent 24 games up with Chicago at the NHL level at the end of the season and has now joined Rockford for their postseason run. First off, Joey, just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time, man. I greatly appreciate you. How you doing this afternoon?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Doing good. Just enjoying a little off day with the family and get ready to go for game 3.
Absolutely. Love to hear it. And I know it was kind of a tough weekend with the IceHogs dropping both games on home ice to the Texas Stars, but both games were tightly contested. It was neck and neck, and I know you weren't part of the group at that point, but this was a Rockford IceHogs team that did find a lot of success against the Texas Stars in the regular season. I know this isn't a situation you obviously want to be in, but what is kind of the mentality around the club right now, or what are the positives that you're trying to take away from the first 2 games, even though the end result didn't go your way?
Yeah, I think just finding our process. I think we did a better job in game 2 of getting into that game, which is just managing pucks through the neutral zone and getting into an offensive zone, forechecking type of game. And again, yesterday could have had a couple goals go our way, pucks going off the pipe, and maybe a bounce here or there doesn't end up in our net. And all of a sudden the game looks a little different, but, did a lot of good things. So I think just try and continue on the good things we did and maybe eliminate some of those, little mistakes that end up in our net. And hopefully guys are getting away right now today, having a nice, relaxing time and recharge mentally before we go to Texas.
Right. The 4-1 final score might make it seem like it wasn't that close, but this was a 2-1 game with 3 minutes to go. You guys had, a slew of power play opportunities in the opening 40 minutes. Alex Vlasic and Lukas Reichel, I think, both hit the post within like 10 seconds of each other. So there are still definitely some things that you can build off of and hopefully find a way to come out with a big win in game 3 down in Texas. But I wanted to ask about you yourself. You have found the back of the net in both of the first 2 games of this series, but it does still feel like there's another gear that you, Lukas, and Rocco Grimaldi on that top line can kind of take it to. And we obviously know the talents that Lukas has. Rocco was a big addition for this team at the end of the season and has been playing well. What have you liked about your guys' game so far in the postseason? And what do you think you guys can maybe do a little bit better of now that the backs are against the wall for these next couple of games?
I think just obviously you got to find another level, a little desperation. I think offensively, it doesn't mean forcing plays, but just got to be a little stronger on the puck, control the game a little more. I think we've done a good job breaking out all postseason. I think it's just, like I said, especially for our line, making sure we're smart with the puck entering the offensive zone. It's not always fun hockey, but it's kind of what you got to do in the playoffs, especially when, we're going to get a guy like Lukas is going to have the other teams checking on him all night, and they're going to want to take away his time and space. So just making sure we manage the puck and that gets us into our offensive zone time more, and it'll end up leading to more chances, even though it might seem a little boring early. I think, find our way to get more pucks to the net too. That'll help. But I thought as the last 2 games have gone on, we've gotten better and progressed throughout each period. So definitely can build on those things, and the chances are there. So I think, like I said, just bearing down when they come and continuing to put pucks on the net.
And I wanted to ask you as well, just about Reichel. Obviously, you got to see him down the stretch of the NHL season when you both were up in Chicago, but now you get to play on the same line as him. What is it about his game that you think makes him so special, and what kind of stands out to you about him?
Yeah, I think just offensively, you can see the way he thinks is so cerebral, the way he finds space and kind of manipulates a defender coming towards him. I've been comparing him. I think he sees it a lot like Clayton Keller in Arizona. They're both similar size, kind of maneuver the ice the same way. I think he does a really good job of using his teammates when they're there and then being able to make a play on his own when it's not. But just very elusive. He's hard to hit. And I think he's got that shot. He can pass. He's a first-round pick for a reason. And you can see the talent there. Like I said, I think it's just, we haven't quite been able to connect on anything in the playoffs yet, really. But it hasn't been for a lack of chances. And I think we just keep kind of sticking with that, get him more touches in the offensive zone, and, make sure he's not afraid to shoot it either.
Yeah, and it feels like you mentioned you guys have had a lot of chances, and it feels like things are heading in the right direction. Is there anything in particular you feel like that you three do really well as a trio that you feel like, even though the finished product hasn't been there, you talked about your breakouts. Is that something that's kind of stood out to you about you three as a line?
Yeah, I think just the ability to get pucks off the wall. I know me and Rocco take a lot of pride in, as wingers, our board play, especially coming out of the defensive zone, finding guys with speed on the weak side. And, that it makes the game so much easier because then you're coming out with possession, you're attacking with speed. And I think, especially against a team like Texas, who tries to stand up at the line with a lot of guys, you gotta attack with speed and have smart pucks. And, it's just nice when you can get guys like Reichs and even Rocco, like the puck with speed, make them, be able to play the game they want to play, which is that speed game. And, they've obviously got the talent to do it. So just kind of the more we have the puck on our stick, the better, I think.
How has this kind of transition down to Rockford been for you? Because I've already mentioned you spent your time once you got traded to Chicago up in the NHL at the end of the season. So your first time kind of meshing with this group now is in the most meaningful time of the year for the playoffs. How has that transition kind of been for you so far?
The group's been great. I think, been able to go to dinner with a handful of different guys as I've been here. And, we've enjoyed our time in the city, and staff's been great, acclimating me to the systems here. It's very similar to Chicago, but, getting put in good spots to feel comfortable on the ice and get welcomed into the team. And like I said, the group's been awesome with me, very open, welcoming, which is nice coming into obviously a playoff push. You don't want anything like that to be negative. So it's been definitely something we can build on.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I also wanted to kind of take a step back real quick and kind of talk about your NHL career as a whole so far, because it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, at least it seems. You obviously were drafted in 2016 by the New Jersey Devils. You spend your first couple years of pro hockey with that organization. Then you get traded to Toronto. You're up and down between the AHL and the NHL there. And now, of course, you get acquired by the Blackhawks at the deadline. How difficult has it kind of been so far in your early stages? I mean, you're only 24 years old and you're already on your third professional club. How difficult has kind of all of that been, and how much of an eye-opener has it been to kind of the business side of things that you don't really consider when you're a kid?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, like my first year, I spent most of the season in New Jersey, and, was a little bit in and out, got injured, so missed a bit of time, but was up for most of the year. So you kind of just get that taste of the NHL, and you're there for a while. And then the next year to go to Binghamton, you kind of realize, like, you don't control really anything. And then just go in with a good attitude every day and try and make the most of where you're at. And then, I was fortunate to play at the end of that year with New Jersey, play into a trade with Toronto. And that was the same thing, kind of go back, like deeper organization, right back in the American League, just kind of clawing again. But that was the same thing. Like, you can't control that. So you can't control the depth chart that you're getting put into. And you just try and, like I said, show up every day with a good attitude, be a good teammate, try and learn, work your tail off and do what you can to help the team win. And, that led to more opportunity with the Leafs, and then, eventually play my way into a trade here to Chicago. And that was the same thing, get, good opportunity with Chicago. And it was the same thing, just show up with a good attitude every day, even, seasons kind of in the tank when I got there. But, doesn't mean you show up and be mopey about anything. You come in and you try and win every day. And, I think got pretty comfortable in Chicago and had a good experience with the group there. And even for a group that was, down at the bottom of the standings, it was a very tight group, it felt like, and guys got along great. And that's always good to see, I think, as far as a culture thing, especially when the season's so, negative as far as wins and losses. But that was definitely enjoyable to be a part of a good culture like that.
Joey, I don't know how much you've been able to keep an eye on it because you're in the middle of a playoff run of your own, but your former team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, finally slayed the dragon, if you will, and took down the Toronto Maple Leafs to advance into the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. As someone who was part of that group and knows how bad they've wanted it, I'm sure, to get over that hurdle and how much it means in that city with all the media attention, kind of talk to me about just how happy you are for that group finally seeing them get over the hurdle.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see. I know, the belief's been there the whole time. I think even last year being with them, bounces didn't quite go their way. And it just, that's what it comes down to in the playoffs. And this year, they made some great additions at the deadline. And, it was only a matter of time before they broke through. And that's another really tight knit locker room. And those guys are poised to go on a run here, which is fun. And, it's exciting to be a part of that group. And I know those guys are going to make the most of this opportunity going forward.
Absolutely. And then obviously you get traded and arrive here in Chicago. Looked really sharp, by the way, for those 24 games of action at the end of the season. You spent most of it on the third line with Boris Katchouk and Jujhar Khaira, who I'll get into here in just a second. But not to be prying at anything, but now you're obviously a restricted free agent once again. I believe you got dealt as a restricted free agent in New Jersey, correct?
Yes.
So kind of a situation you're familiar with, but I know there are a lot of Blackhawks fans that would like to see you back here in Chicago for next season, hopefully building off what you did at the end of this year. Have there been any conversations at all regarding that, or is it at this point you're just focused on Rockford, and then when that stuff comes, you'll handle all that?
Yeah, no, at this point, we're just focused on what's going on here in Rockford, try and get back into the series here and kind of see if we can't make a little push here towards continuing a long playoff stretch here. But like I said, I absolutely love being in Chicago and in this organization. The treatment's been fantastic. And, we'll get to that, those discussions when they come. But yeah, so like right now, just focus on what I can control, and that's helping the Rockford, helping the Piggies go on a run here.
Of course. I got to ask you, though, about your success at the end of the year with Jujhar Khaira and Boris Katchouk, the 14, 15, 16 line, as we called y'all there at the end of the year. What was it about your guys' game that just led to all that success at the end of the season? Because I'll tell you what, Joey, there were lots of nights there at the end of the year where you guys were the best trio for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, thanks. It was honestly, we all played very similar style. I think we all brought a little different element to the line, but we were committed to just keeping plays in front of us, going forechecking, kind of like I just talked about with these AHL playoff games, can be kind of boring, but it's very effective. And, over the course of a game, we find a way to just wear teams down, and you stay committed to that defensively, and, eventually you get your chance you want and you score on it. And, we got to a point where we were starting to bury our chances, which was nice. And, obviously off the ice had good chemistry with those guys as well. And, we all got along really well. And it's always fun when you play with guys you enjoy being around. So it was a good situation for all of us, I think. And we had a fun end of the year.
Well, we hope to see more out of that group, hopefully in the future. Joey, I got two final questions for you on the lighter side here before I get you out of here for the rest of your day. What's your favorite meal that you've had in Chicago so far? I know it wasn't a lot of time at the end of the season, but you had to have gone out at least a couple of times and tried something around the city, no?
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Not to put you on the spot, I apologize.
My wife and I did we did Easter brunch or lunch at probably the signature room on 95th floor. Is that called? That was pretty fun. My wife was a little nervous being up so high, but we had a great time, and that was a pretty nice meal. So it was a fun one for me. And otherwise, just kind of trying a couple different steakhouses. We usually just go to Gibson Steakhouse a couple times.
Yeah.
So that was good. We're pretty plain though. We just go back to the same things we know.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I feel you on that one.
Right.
Last question I got for you, Joey. How did it feel to be surrounded by so many former Minnesota-Duluth Bulldogs when you arrived to Chicago? Because, I mean, between the players and the staff, I think there was 4 or 5 of you guys maybe. That must have been pretty cool to see when you arrived to the Blackhawks.
Yeah, it's fun to have just some familiar faces around. I know, obviously, even didn't know Stalock a whole lot before getting there, but just, there's a comfort there knowing, we've got that connection. And obviously, Planner, the assistant coach there, he was part of the team that recruited me when I went to Duluth. And so good relationship with him. And that helps having a guy on the coaching staff that you're, familiar with and that knows your game a little bit, personality wise and things like that. So, and then they bring in Kaiser at the end of the year. Obviously it was fun to see him come in and have some success at the end of the year for sure. And, I think it's good for the program. I like seeing Bulldogs do well.
Absolutely. One last side question. Alex Stalock has to be awesome in the locker room, right? I mean, just watching him, how he plays on the ice, he's got to be fun to be around, right?
Yeah, he's been great. Yeah, one of those guys, talk to anybody and, always got a positive, upbeat energy to him.
I could figure as much. Well, Joey, just wanted to say thank you again. Thank you again so much for taking the time on your off day, man. I greatly appreciate you. And best of luck the rest of the way in these Calder Cup playoffs. Just one game at a time. Go get game 3, and we'll see what happens from there.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Once again, Joey Anderson from the Rockford IceHogs here on the Locked On Blackhawks podcast.